What's the scariest thing that happened to you when in someone else's house? Slept on a former friend's sofa. He decided to prank me by pretending to be a bugler wearing a ski mask. Then he pretended to try and kidnap me. Long story short, I broke his nose, and we are no longer friends. What if he was actually trying to kidnap you but his plans were ruined, so he fell back on plan B? Haha, got you. This was all a joke. I wasn't really going to sell your organs on the black market. Sleepover at best friend's house when I was about 12. Middle of the night after we'd fallen asleep. He wakes up and starts screaming that his head is going to explode. Not a bad dream. He keeps going, just screaming and crying and thrashing around. His parents wake up, scoop him up, and rush him to the hospital. Turned out he just never had a headache before, and his first was apparently a doozy. Honestly, I woke up out of a dead sleep to my first ever real migraine and I'm pretty sure I screamed. It was so disorienting and scary to just wake up to this extreme pain. I'm so glad my boyfriend was there to calm me down. Not sure that just a headache would warrant that reaction, but maybe as a kid it's equally scary. When my so and I first started seeing each other, I had just recently switched to a non-hormonal BC after having the Nexplanon implant and no periods for 2 years. The second time I went over to his house, I unexpectedly got my period, and I had been warned by my doctor my periods might be a little heavier than before. Little did I know this was a huge understatement. So I'm cuddling with my so when I realize I'm feeling a little moist, and not the good kind. So I excuse myself to the bathroom. I'm not joking when I say I had a steady stream of menstrual blood coming out of me, and my pants, thankfully solid black, were soaked through. I wasn't expecting my period, so I had no pads or tampons, and my soul lived with 4 other guys who were single, so no feminine products were lying around. The cherry on top though was the fact they were completely out of toilet paper, and I had left my phone in the bedroom, so I was basically stranded on the toilet. Once I realized how fricked I was, I had a panic attack and cried. After what felt like forever, my son knocked and asked if I was okay, and I told him what was going on. He was really understanding and ran down to the store to get me tampons, TP, and pants. I was so embarrassed at the time and scared he would judge, but it's really funny to look back on. I hope you're still together because that dude sounds like a keeper. 15. Me and 2 other friends was at a friend's house. Him and his brother were arguing, then his older brother beat the absolute crap out of him. I tried to step in, then he shoved me in the wall. Then their father stepped in and started going ham on the older brother. There's always a bigger fish. About had a heart attack at 3 AM because his miniature pinscher jumped over the doggy gate and landed on my chest while I was asleep. When I was little, I would have a good amount of sleepovers at my friend's house. My fam always had tons of allergies to pets, so we never had any. My best friend had dogs and a really wonderful, special cat. But I didn't know anything about cats when I was little, so I'd kind of say hi then run away. It's the summer and my friend has a tent and wants to sleep in the tents in his backyard. I'm not crazy about it, but we bring a bunch of blankets out and get all set up. When I wake up, it's light out, so maybe 7-8 in the morning, and his cat is laying on my chest with her paws right under my chin and her nose like right near my nose. I'm laying there in mortal fear because I figure she's planning on eating my face off. She's purring, so that must have been a sign she was going to strike. I remember sort of half moving to get her to go away, but she'd just sit there and kind of flex her paws a little. I think I lay frozen for like a good hour until she decided to do something else and got off of me. I barely escaped death. As I grew up, she became a great friend. Whenever I'd go over, she'd come find me and sit either on me or next to me. Because of her, I love cats now and respect them. She was special. I frequently pet sat for a family when I was in college. They had a nice house, cable with all the extra movie channels, pre-Netflix days, king-size bed, huge jacuzzi tub, and since they lived out in the boonies, a huge backyard. I conversely lived in an 800 square foot basement apartment. They had 3 large goofy lab mixes that I loved. I worked second shift at an emergency vet clinic and would come home around midnight. So I'm snuggled up in the bed with the dogs and watching a movie, The Blair Witch Project 2, when all 3 dogs run to the French doors that open onto the deck and start doing this low growl. I tell them that it's nothing, just the wind or a tree limb. Stop it. Nope, they keep staring into the backyard and growling, hair up on the back of their necks. Serious growls. I finally decided to go investigate. I take the biggest dog with me into the backyard. As I start shining the flashlight around, I hear snorts and hooves and a buck deer takes off into the woods. I just about pee myself. Tried to fill up a Zippo with butane. As soon as I lit it, the Zippo exploded in flames and went under Buddy's couch, and flames were coming from all edges of the couch. Flipped over the couch and grabbed the flaming Zippo with my bare hands and threw it out of the window. Friend never knew about it as he was out at the corner store grabbing smokes. Never told him. It was decided that whoever falls asleep first would get pranked. I nodded off to sleep at around 3 AM. About 5 minutes in, I got shaving cream sprayed in my ear canal. Not only did it freak me out, but I had the feeling like water was stuck in my ear for over a week. Well, that sucks. I got the stomach flu at a friend's house after drinking loads of red Gatorade and eating popcorn. Puke came out blood red with tons of chunks, kernels, and I thought I was done for. Very young, 7 maybe, at a friend's house. He's brushing his teeth. So I decide to sneak up and scare him. It works, but he chokes on the toothbrush really bad. The toothbrush got lodged in his throat. He was gasping for air. IDK how it happened. His dad saw this from the hallway and grabbed me by the collar of my shirt and led me to the living room where he briefly yelled at me. Nothing too bad. Probably deserved it. He later apologized and we all had a laugh about it. But dang, was that the scariest 10 seconds of my life at that point. My brother and sister are adopted from my uncle and his girlfriend at the time. They were, and still are as far as I know, junkies who cared more about the drugs than they cared about their children. When I was young, my parents were still trying to help them get their crap together so they could reclaim their children into a loving and stable home. It never happened. Instead, what happened was yelling and screaming matches at my uncle's trailer home, who was with another woman by then, or his ex-girlfriend's apartment. Neither one wanted to stop the drugs. I remember being scared and upset at hearing my mom being so upset that she was yelling and screaming at these people. I honestly thought someone was going to be hurt or worst. Eventually my parents realized they'd never give up the drugs and they just adopted the kids outright, and I consider them my siblings. It's not all roses. My brother is in prison, but my sister is happy living with her husband and little daughter, who is just the cutest toddler in the world. I was at my friend's house when we were 7. We'd often just hang out and play Donkey Kong and Mario Kart on N64. She had a brother, few years older, who'd stick around at times. He once grabbed some big kitchen knives and threatened us. He was a few feet away, so not threatening us with a knife to the neck type of thing. Still, we were 7. We obviously freaked out. He was saying he'd stab us, kill us, cut us up, etc. He kept this up for about 10 minutes and then burst out laughing, saying it was a prank. Real freaking funny, man. Their family eventually moved away and we didn't keep in touch. I wonder if my friend's brother has turned into a psychopath. 12 years old, watching The Ring on VHS. About 2 minutes after the film ended, my friend's house phone rang. We screamed bloody murder. It was her mum calling and checking on us. I was sleeping over that night and her parents were out at a dinner party, so we were all alone in a huge house that was eerie, silent and dark. That is hilariously perfect timing. You know Dumb and Dumber, where Harry uses the broken toilet after all those laxatives? Basically that. I had to drop a doozy at my brother's house, so I went upstairs to do it discreetly. Turns out my nephew had flushed a pencil down that toilet and it was majorly out of commission. I tried a plunger, but that just spread crappy water around and made a mess. Telling them I needed assistance wasn't what I'd call a fun memory. This happened sometime in the mid-2000s. I'm over at a friend's house late at night, and the two of us are watching reruns of the classic Twilight Zone. His family is out somewhere, so it's just us in this large 2-story house. The episode we are watching had to do with this town that gets enveloped in never-ending darkness, and the people in the town all hate each other, so the darkness was supposed to be a manifestation of their anger or something like that. Anyways, the episode nears the end and Rod Sterling begins his ending narration. He says something to the effect of, "And be sure not to let the darkness consume you," or something similar. My memory is vague, and I crap you not. As soon as Rod said those words, the power in the house went out and me and my friend were left in shock sitting in the living room in total darkness. It was the freakiest coincidence I've ever experienced in my life. And no, it wasn't a prank because nobody else was home and my friend never left the living room. It was one of my first sleepovers. I was at my cousin's house and I didn't know his house very well. I woke up to use the bathroom but I wasn't quite sure where it was. All the lights were off and everyone was asleep. It was complete black. I felt my way into the hall and walked to where I thought the bathroom was and only found the stairs. I tried to go back to the room but I couldn't find it. I didn't want to make any noise as my uncle was working day turn and he needed to sleep. He was working swing shifts all the time at the mill and was really cranky if you woke him. I blundered around upstairs trying to find the door to the room that I was sleeping in but couldn't find it. I started to panic. Eventually I had to call out for help as I couldn't even find a light switch. My aunt woke up and drove me back over to my grandma's house as I was in a complete panic. I must have been about 7 or 8. It doesn't sound like much, but it was a big deal to me at the time. There's definitely a reason darkness is a phobia. Crap can be terrifying. When I was maybe 6 or 7, my best friend's little brother died. He was barely 2 and him and his mom got into a horrible car wreck due to icy roads. Shortly after he died, I ended up staying at my best friend's house a lot for a while, to be there for her and keep her busy while her parents grieved. One night I was there, her mom had a complete breakdown. She was screaming and crying, saying she wanted to die and how she's going to kill herself, throwing things against the wall and breaking everything she could get her hands on. My friend's dad ended up calling my mom, our moms were best friends also, to come over and calm her down. I look back at it and it's just horribly sad, but at the time, my friend and I were both terrified and didn't know what to do. Family told me house was haunted and I just brushed it off, but one night around 3 AM I was sleeping on the couch and I could see into the laundry room that had a bunch of empty hangers. The lights flickered and all of the clothes hangers crashed onto the floor. I was petrified. Well, I'm not sure if it counts, but I was right outside of his house, like right in front. 2 steps and I was on his house. 4th grade and I had this friend on the corner of my street. He used to go to my school. He was my best friend. We talked every time at school. He never mentioned his parents, but there's one time I asked him if he wanted to play at his house or something. You know, just to hang out. So I came over, and his dad came out with a bat, telling me to frick off or he'll come and beat me. Keep in mind I didn't say a single thing. I was just like, WTF. I asked if my friend, let's call him Dave, could come down. He just closed the door on me. My dumbass knocked again because Dave said he would be 100% okay to hang out. Dad just comes out ready to freaking hit me and I was really scared. I just backed off and ran. Only told my mom, but she didn't take it that serious. I didn't know why he reacted like this. Apparently 2-3 months later, a bunch of cops came to my friend's house one day and they arrested his dad and mom because they have been secretly dealing C and weed at their house. I guess he acted like this because he didn't want anybody know they were selling drugs. Thank God I didn't come back again or something bad could have happened to me. I was over at my neighbor's house when I was 12 or so. She was the same age. Anyway, she wasn't supposed to have visitors over when her grandparents who she lived with weren't home. Well, they came home earlier than expected and we panicked. There was only one way in and out of the house. So instead of trying to get out, I hid under the covers in one of the rooms. Grandma and Grandpa come inside and we were immediately busted. They had seen my sandals by the front door, so they knew someone was still in the house. Thing is, they thought it was a guy, and I proceeded to lay as still as I could under the covers while my friend got yelled at. At one point the grandma came into the room I was in and checked the closet. She never checked the bed because it was full of stuffed toys and that hid the lump that was actually me. She then turned off the lights. I was still terrified of the dark that time. I stayed there for about 20 more minutes listening to my friend get grounded and everything before I figured I could sneak out now. But their dogs gave me away. Mayo the grandparents started laughing once everything got straightened out and made clear we weren't in any trouble. In hindsight I don't even know why we both got so scared. It's funny now. I was 9 at my neighbor's house. They had 3 families in the house and one of the adult men was an alcoholic. While we were playing he came home violent and shouting. The women of the house locked him out and made us girls hide in the closet while they called the cops to come pick him up. He was shouting and banging on all the windows yelling how we knew we were in there hiding. I was terrified and peed my pants in my friend's closet. Once he was in handcuffs on the curb I ran home. My friend in middle school had a dad with a drinking problem. He'd come home drunk and the kids would get in trouble for dumb reasons. One day I was there in the afternoon. This was okay with her mom. And dad came home super drunk and angry. He started screaming and hitting the wall. They were so afraid of what he'd do if he knew I was there that my friend and her sister distracted dad in the living room while the younger brother snuck me out the back door. He was awful and made the family move away that summer. Ran out of toilet paper and had a very bad case of the runny poo. Friend wasn't inside because we had to smoke outside, so I needed to call her mother for more toilet paper. Still my best friend, and I am still allowed to use their bathroom. I spent the night at one of my best friend's house in elementary school. It was a super chill night. Jumped on his trampoline, played some basketball and some Xbox. Heck, we even watched Two Girls One Cup, which was a big wake up call for me and what originally made me think that the internet was bad and YouTube was something I should stay away from. This was the early days of YouTube and I was young. But anyways, as we are hanging out it gets to be about 8 PM and a friend of ours has her mom drive her. Well, that put his mom over the edge when she showed up. She was very drunk and started screaming at my friend right into his face. Some of the meanest crap I've ever heard. He just took it with a stone cold face as I started bawling, not knowing what to do. We would leave the room and then she would follow us and eventually it escalated to her just hitting my friend in the face multiple times. I escaped myself since her targets were on him and sat in his little sister's room as we both cried together, and I remember just asking God why someone so dear to me had to live like this. Because based off of his reactions I could tell this was a regular thing. Finally, when it started to get really bad, his father came home and instantly loaded me and my friend up in the car and he dropped me off back at my house. I stayed up that whole night talking with my mom, crying my eyes out at what I had witnessed. It was a big wake up call for me to see the way that some people are raised and gave me an appreciation for my parents and how calm they always were with me, because I was definitely a little crap. I still think of that situation and get heated. Since then I see that friend here and there and it seems like things are going pretty good for him, which always makes me happy to see. We have graduated high school and I think he's in college right now. Anyways, sorry for the long story, just had to get that all into words. I've never felt so helpless and so worried for someone I cared about, ever. Alright, story time. So back in 2008 I was in Germany as an exchange student. One day me and my host family went to a family friend's house for lunch. After lunch we were playing board games, and I needed to take a pee. To be polite I asked, "Can you use your bathroom?" and the host pointed me to the door behind the dining table. I walked into the bathroom and there was a sink, a bath, and something that looked like a toilet with no lid or seat, and really low to the floor. I looked around confused for a few minutes before thinking, frick it, this must be some weird German loo, and started to take a pee into the low bowl. Immediately the host calls out, "Are you Pretorius 6? If you're looking for the toilet, it's next door." I panic, cut myself off midstream and get super embarrassed thinking, what the frick have I just pee into? Their foot spa or something? I walk out of the bathroom, apologize and say sorry I was quite confused, and go next door to the separate toilet room with a toilet of normal height and with seat and lid. Walk back out very embarrassed, wondering if the host heard me pee in the bathroom and hoping I haven't pee in something I shouldn't have. I whispered to my host brother when I was back at the table asking him what the heck was that thing in the bathroom I pee in. He said it was a bidet. Thank goodness. so it's had a lot worse in it than pee. Weird that it was in a different room though. Do people have to crab scuttle from the toilet to the bathroom? I have been looking for a word to describe that walk for years. My search is now over. The crab scuttle. TLDR, rescue dogs taught the power of hugs. So generally I'm afraid of big dogs. I went over to my new friend's house to get ready to go out clubbing. Coming in, she introduces me to her stepdad's 3 Dobermans to help me get comfortable. All 3 are cute dogs, very friendly and wanting pets. I give each one a treat and we are all friends, right? So, I'm feeling at ease. I don't think anything of it. We decide to ride together. So I go step outside and move my car while she does her makeup. As I head for the back door, I came in the front. Dog number 1 cuts me off and stands in front of the door. I reach for the knob and there is snarling. Okay, I turn to head upstairs and the other 2 have me in a triangle. Not growling, just staring. I'm in a triangle of Doberman. I try to stay calm and take another step. The 2 in front step towards me growling. I start to call up to my friend. Bad idea. I get 1 syllable of her name out and now teeth are being bared. I'm now terrified. For context, I'm 5 feet tall and female. I try to reach for my phone, the triangle shrinks a lot, and growling intensifies. I realize this is how I'm going to die. They are snarling. Shiny white teeth bared. Heckles up closing in and my friend appears. Panicked calling the dogs by name. They back off. She hugs me, then opens the door. All 3 of those jerks wave their tails like everything is cool. Everything was not cool. It turns out they're rescues and some idiot taught them to keep people in the house until there is a hug. A little hug. She was very apologetic about her brain fart. It's been years. We are super tight now but the dogs are still not quite trained out of it. At Dart most places don't deliver there anymore. I don't visit anymore either. She moved years ago. Once upon a time, I was showering at a friend's house and her mom was at work so it was just us. The shower started to back up and flood. I heard gurgling and looked out and the toilet and sink were overflowing with feces. I then got a bloody nose and the lights crapped out. I thought for sure I'd die. The washer machine pipe started to gurgle and overflow too. We couldn't get a hold of her mom. We ended up walking the 20 some odd blocks to my house in the middle of the night. I was staying at this girl's house and her mom's boyfriend came home drunk. He started getting angry about something and took an axe into the house, swung it into the fridge, and screamed, "Do you want this to end up like the Villisca axe murders? I live in Iowa." For those who don't know the story, serial killer snuck into a house of a family with kids and their friend staying over and murdered them all with an axe. Was never caught. I lie in bed clutching my friend who was silently sobbing praying to God he didn't come upstairs because her door's lock didn't work. He started going off the rails and screaming at me to go the frick home now while the mother was telling him to leave me alone. Scary crap. I think he just left the house after that. It was a long time ago and I only now remembered it after reading some other comments. I could have been murdered that night by a drunk butthole. 10 years old, drive-by shooting. Didn't know what a terrible neighborhood my friend lived in, and how weird their family dynamics were, until much later in life. Scariest? I'll never forget it. I was on a double date with a friend. We went to the girl's house to meet her and pick her up. I had to do the number 2 really bad. I had no choice, I had to use her bathroom. So I got done and flushed, the toilet got clogged. I saw the water rising with the poop. It wouldn't stop. It kept going. It flooded her entire hallway and into the kitchen. Poop and poop water was everywhere. I thought the date was over. Funny enough, this girl became obsessed with me for years to come. I couldn't get rid of her. I was at a friend's house and his mom is absolute B. I was simply playing PSP with my friend and she starts talking, at first nice and sweet but then starts insulting me saying crap like, I should be glad that I have a friend like her son, and that I am a terrible person for ruining her son by talking to him. I started crying. I was 10 years old, I just wanted to play on his PSP. Funny thing, this happened twice. I really didn't want to go to his house but he convinced me to work on a school project in his house. Mom does the same thing again, this time saying that I should be glad to be friends with her son and that he does all the work and that again I am a terrible person. What the frick is wrong with people? I need to talk about this story, so I changed to my throwaway account. I am in my 20s and I had to stay at a colleague's house when I am visiting her town for business. Because the company made me stay at her house, they got her a brand new mattress for me to sleep in. I had a terribly stressful day that day and we had some alcohol before we went to bed. That night, I didn't have a good sleep. It was nightmares after nightmares. And I just dreamt that I was in the bathroom. Then I wet the new mattress. I immediately woke up to find that I had wet the new mattress and I went into panic. I tried to dry the mattress with my towels. Luckily I brought more than one towels and went to Google on what to do. The next day was the day I had to travel home, but before I left and while she was at work, I washed the mattress. I told my colleague that I had my period and stained the mattress. That's why the mattress was washed and hanging on the balcony. She bought that story. Q. That is literally the scariest thing I've ever done at someone's house. AWH, it's okay. I promise that you didn't need the throwaway for this. If that happened to someone staying at my place, I would have totally not been mad and would have understood how anxiety ridden you would be being on the other end of that. When I was in high school, I was house sitting for the first time at my best friend's place. He had 2 dogs. It was a split level home, so I was in the downstairs with surround sound watching Event Horizon for the very first time. At some point mid movie, all of the power in the house goes off and I am in pitch blackness and confusion for about 5 seconds until the power comes back on and the doorbell rings. The dogs start going nuts and barking at the door. I am at this point freaking out. I run straight upstairs to my friend's room and grab the BB gun I know is next to his dresser. I start inching back downstairs towards the door with the squirrel popper tightly in hand. I turn on the porch light but no one is out there. The dogs are still riled up though. At this point I can see outside that it's raining. Hadn't heard the storm before because of the loud movie followed by my pounding heart. I call my mum and ask her casually if the power went out at our house due to the storm. We lived about 5 minutes from my friend. She said no, but a funny thing happened. The phone line suddenly went dead. Now I am starting to freak out a little bit because the power is still on but the phone is dead. This is when cell phones were just starting to become normalized, but most people still used pagers. After about a minute or so, I'm trying to rationalize everything when the power goes back out. About 5 seconds pass, the power comes back on and doorbell rings. The dogs start going nuts again. I had left the porch light on but didn't see anyone out there, so I herded the dogs back downstairs, locked the door, clutched the BB gun to my chest and finished watching Event Horizon. TLDR, watched Event Horizon while house sitting. Freaky stuff happened with power outages. I grabbed a BB gun and finished the movie like a man. Movie still freaks me out. Every time my doorbell is plugged back in, it chimes as a friendly reminder that it works. Probably just that. It was my house, but I'm sure this is the story my friend would tell. We were having a sleepover, and they were going to sleep in our extra room that was used as a media game room. We were teens, so we had sodas of course, and one got left on top of the TV and opened. Later, we were all going to settle in. I turned off the light, closed the door behind me on the way to my room, and then out of nowhere I just hear a super loud and jarring boom come from behind me. I go back into the room, throw on the light, and the soda that was left on the TV had exploded and sprayed all over the room and everybody in it. So confusing and just bizarre. Nobody recalled it being there till after the fact. When I was on high school, one of my friends was having a birthday party at their house. Now I am kind of introverted, so at some point they were all in the kitchen doing something and I was in the living room sitting on the couch just taking a short mental break. A little bit before this, one of the party guests, J, had their boyfriend, B, show up. He announced he was high, not sure on what, and a little after he passed out asleep on the other couch in the living room. While I am taking my break, I look over at B and I notice something off. He's twitching a lot now, and it's turning into full-on convulsions with each passing second. I call J into the room once I notice he's now foaming a little at the mouth. They all come into the living room and crowd around B. Someone's dialing 911, and I'm still on the other couch like a dumb frick because I don't know what else to do. Jay tries to wake B up, shaking him. Suddenly he bolts up, screams, and stagger runs out the front door. At this point my aunt shows up to pick me up, and I skedaddle out of there. As far as I know, the guy was fine, just having a bad reaction to whatever he took. I made new friends after this. TLDR, at a party when a guy has a bad reaction to the drugs he took, he has convulsions and runs out into the neighborhood screaming. I leave. Peeing early in the morning after a sleepover at your friend's house knowing that the flush of toilet is going to wake somebody up. As a kid, I couldn't believe how many people sleep without fans or white noise. All my friends when I was young had silent houses, and it really weirded me out. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.